we're going to install a stone guard to protect the radiator on this 1928 Model A Ford two-door sedan. So the stone guard, I don't know where it came from. We've had it for probably 20 years, but I didn't have the mount kit for it. So I ordered from Snyder Auto Parts, Antique Auto Parts, A18700 SKA. That's the one that can be used for the 2829 or the 3031 stone guard install. But there's not much out there on how to install it, so I'm going to show you how to do that today, and hopefully you won't have any issues. So to accomplish the first step, you'll need to take the kit. You've got two brackets. These are nice. These are stainless steel. They're really high quality, but they're made in Taiwan. So not that I don't like Taiwan. I think Taiwan's great, but we've got to start manufacturing more stuff over here in America. So if you have a choice and you can buy made in America, please do. 4 of these grommets, 2 of the brackets, 2 bolts, 4 nuts, and 2 lock washers is the kit. So the holes in your, the bumpers go in the holes of your stone guard on each of the corners. And so these are very hard to get in. So what I do is I use this Acro oil by Cano. You can also use Blaster. You can also use WD-40, but spray just a little bit inside that groove. And then the hard part is getting this to go in to the groove. What you have to do is I use a very tiny screwdriver that has the edges ground off. I ground off the edge here and the edge here to fit this in here. So I'm going to try to show you how this works. This is probably not going to work very well. So try to prop it. You get one side started and then take the screwdriver and push it through, all the way through. You can easily damage this thing though, easily punch a hole in it. But once you get it in, it goes right in. Otherwise you will fight this thing like crazy. See how it is? It's pretty good. So that's the hardest part, is to get these started. Next step is actually attaching it to the Model A, and that's where most of the questions come in, is where the heck do these brackets go? Where do these brackets go? So we're going to show you. Okay, so when you set the stone guard in place, I'm going to have to fight to get that behind there. I can't do it with one hand. But when you set this in place, you'll notice that the hole for where the bracket's going to attach, that is lined up with the hole for the headlight conduit right here. So what you can do is notch a little section out of the grommet like somebody did before, or you can do what we're going to do, and we're just going to push that grommet aside and drive that bracket into place. So the way that works is you turn your bracket where the hook is inside, and you fit that up in there and you push it in. I'm going to have to do that with 2 hands, so I'll have to show you what it looks like when we're done. But I'm basically pushing this whole section back and then hooking the hook, that hook, into where the stainless steel, excuse me, in this case chrome plated radiator shell hole is. Okay, so once you've pulled that grommet back towards the cab and you've slipped the hook of these brackets in place on both sides, you're ready to go. You can go ahead and put the stone guard in place, which again I'm going to have to do with 2 hands, but I'll show it to you once it's in place, and then you just put your bolts in. All right, so the stone guard is in place. You got to really be careful not to pop these out. See how that one is not wanting to go anywhere. So I got to pull this out and fit that right in the front like that. Bring the other one around, which is being pulled right there. I have to do this with 2 hands, so I have to let you go again. But the idea is to make sure that these grommets don't pop out and they fit right against the front of the radiator shell. So I'll show you how that looks when I get in place. Okay, so what's going on here is these rubber bumpers, they're just way too deep. They fit pretty good on the bottom, but they don't fit very well on the 2829 radiator on the top. So what happens is the stone guard is riding up against the chrome radiator shell, which I don't want that at all. So I'm going to go pull this off, and I'm going to cut about 1/3 off of each one of these grommets to see if they will line up a little bit better. If that doesn't work, I'll go to a half. If that doesn't work, I'll go to a quarter. But I'm going to have to manipulate these so that they don't bend up like this, and that they do indeed give me some space here, which means more of that meat's got to come off than that meat in order to tilt the top of this radiator shell or the stone guard away from the radiator shell. So that's just way too tight. That's going to rub all that chrome plating off. Okay, so based on our rough fit, we know that the bottom is pushing the top of the radiator up way too far. So I'm going to take half of these off, and I'm going to take 1/4 of these off, and we're going to see how that works. That may be a little aggressive, but that's what I think we need to do here. 1/2, 1/4. Once you cut those, you can never go back. You have to buy a new kit, so make sure you know what you're doing here. Okay, once you've got everything fit, there's a little clip that you can maybe see between the stone guard that rests on the top of the radiator shell inside there. Look at your grommets. They are not terribly squashed, so I think our estimate was right on. Other one on the other side. By the way, I've got this perfectly lined up on the edges, all the way up around the top. That's centered, and all the way around the side. You want to get it pretty close, and then you can put your bolts in here and start your final alignment right there. So the grommets are the hard thing, getting those installed and lined up, but you can see that they're fitting pretty well without being crushed, and I have a really good perfect gap up here, so that's spot on. Protect your car. These fenders get scratched up like crazy, so whenever you put anything on them, if you need a place to put stuff, make sure that you put a good cloth towel down. All right, so again, I can't do this one-handed, so I'm going to put this together and show you how it looks. Okay, it's not easy, so it's probably best if you reach around, work the nut from this side, and use your left hand to work the bolt from the front side. At least that way you can kind of get up underneath here and kind of guide those into place. But once you get it started, snug it up, and then we'll show you what the final product looks like. The spare nut can be used if you have the space to attach the bolt into place here so it's not wobbling around, but I don't have the space. Maybe the 3031 has more space, so I'm going to flush here with no nut to hold it in place. It makes it more difficult to put it on maybe, but I don't have the space to work with. So it's metric. It's a 10mm nut, which I think is ridiculous. It's not a 3/8 or 7/16 like it should be. So I could just go find me a 3/8 inch nut that fits that thread size and put it on, but I'm not having this car judged, so it's no big deal. I'm going to go ahead and put this metric nut on an SAE car. And because this space is too tight to actually get a wrench in, I'm just going to use my trusty pocket knife to hold the nut in place as I screw it down. So these bolts are a little too long, but since they're universal for both 2829, 3031, I suspect that's why they make them long, which means they come in contact or very close to the radiator shell chrome. I don't like that, so I could go get a shorter bolt, which will be harder to get on, or I can go get one of these 5/16 by 3/16 by 5/16 grommets and slip it over the end of the threads of the bolt. It's the perfect size actually because it doesn't come out. It's a pretty snug fit. I don't know if you can see it in there. And that'll allow me to get right up against that radiator shell without any damage. So I'm going to slip that on a little bit more to where I can just barely see the thread sticking out of the end. And that'll give me my little bumper that I'm looking for here. And there we have it. It's in place. My bolt is snugged up, so my bracket's nice and tight. We're in good shape. So the final product looks good. Everything's aligned. The Ford script at the top is aligned mostly, and the bottom crank hole is aligned. So that's the goal. Just make sure it's even all the way around the perimeter and that you don't have anything rubbing against that chrome plating.